thing back. Official episode of Horror Junkies right here. Go ahead and start. First episode, we're going to start off with an introduction with ourselves. So, going with intro, I guess. You want to start or you want me to start?
No, you go ahead, do your thing, man. I'm just sitting here waiting.
Cool, cool. Make sure. All right. Well, I guess pretty much my name is San Quan, or you can call me Quan for short. Been moving, been doing a lot of gigs. I like to train people, like to do martial arts, but of course, for horror junkies, I'm very big on horror movies. Pretty much, I like to make the joke. I got it from my mama because pretty much she's big in horror movies. Apparently, my dad, on the other hand, is not a big fan of horror movies. I find that still hilarious to this
That's
day.
usually not the case either. Usually it's the other way around.
Yeah, usually it's the other way around, where it's like it's the dad that's the horror guy, and the mom's like, "Nah, don't do that." And I Like, yeah, remembering my mom, she like tell me stories that she would take me to see Jurassic Park, like her first horror movie, and I was just like, "Hey," but like, it's a funny story for like the first horror movie that got me, and then afterwards how I got over that. But, so big on horror movies since got it from my mom, and good start from there. So, guess your turn.
Perfect. Yes, sir. My name is Bray Edge. Of course, y'all could just call me Edge, or that sounds like a good screen name to have anyway, as I mentioned. But yeah, so yeah, horror movies. Funny story for me. I'm obviously a little bit but agier than you. And when we started, there was video. You could actually went to a video store, like well, they used to be called Blockbuster
Is your
back in the day, where you
blockbuster
actually go and rent
video?
videotapes. Yeah, so me and my brothers would go down there and we would just try to find the stupidest looking movie we could. And there was one that was called Lunch Meat. That was a cannibal movie, but it was funny as all get up. So we would just throw line after line after line out of that movie, just because how stupid it was. And then obviously you can imagine it's a cannibal movie. It's called Lunch Meat, what it was about, but it wasn't, that wasn't really what got me in horror movies. And just having that thought process that you could go do that you could go to a video store and just rent a movie at any time you want was pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
But my real story was I mean, my brothers were kind of into it, but I was really the one that wanted it. And my mom would used to let me go downtown to Millersville, Georgia, where I grew up. And Millersville, Georgia is a little small town, but downtown they had a movie theater. Right beside that movie theater, guess what? They had something we don't have anymore, arcade. And this arcade was my favorite place to go. So I'd be there at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, and they dropped me off and I'd do my thing. Well, of course, they dropped me off. They didn't know I was about to go to a movie. Now, this particular time, I was supposed to be meeting a friend. Friend didn't show up. I'm like, ugh. So I really gonna want to go watch a horror movie by myself, but I did. But man, that horror movie has imprinted me for the rest of my life. I'll never forget it. It was called The Burning. The Burning. Make sure you watch it if you haven't seen it yet. It's 1981, but it's very, very well made. It's a slasher type movie that kind of started that genre. And the funny thing about this movie is the director, Tony Malum, I think his name was, he never made another horror movie. That was his only one.
Oh,
But it was very well made, very well done, very uh it was scary. It was scary, especially watching it alone in a theater. And it's been a while since I've seen it. Um That was, one of the guys from, Seinfeld was also in it, one of his first gigs,
I'm gonna check that.
but yeah, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but anyways, that was the movie that got me kicked into horror movies, and then from that point on, I would try to watch I just like that thrill, so I wanted to go get that thrill, that adrenaline rush, and from that point on, I was going and renting them. And there's probably not a horror movie you can name I haven't seen, but there's probably a few out there I'm like, "Oh, wait, where'd that one come from?"
Oh yeah.
But I don't watch them as much now as I used to, of course, with the family. I don't get a chance to watch as many as I used to. But and now you just there's so many of them. There are so many horror
Oh yeah,
movies.
no, there's a whole yeah. I mean that almost be the reason to start the podcast right there. Is like just because there's just so many horror movies to like just dive into. Like we can just go into that. It's very
Right.
nice. I should need to write that down. I actually wrote that down on a little booklet. It's also like kind of like my thing to make sure we stay on task or whatnot. So, or at least for me, I don't know. I just like to make
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. You got to keep me on task, otherwise I'll be talking about other movies before you know it. So
Gotta save it for other episodes. Other episodes.
That's extra episodes, extra. This could be like the, extra of the week episodes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I like that, though. Might have to do that extra. Alright. So, first you got that right there, and that was, like, pretty much your first horror movie that got you, you'd say, was The Burning?
The Burning, yep.
Nice, nice. So
Gotta go see it. If you've ever heard the name of Cropsey, this story loosely talks about Cropsey, and, Craig, if you haven't heard the story of Cropsey, that's a true story, so you need to hear or at least go see the documentary on Cropsey. He was a serial killer that, everybody just kinda shunned him, and, he's kinda got back at people by for shunning him. This movie kind of feeds off that a little bit, so, yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen that, you definitely need to see that as well. I mean, I'm a big documentary guy too, so especially if it's based or on real true stories, that's great. I mean, Ed Gein story. Oh my gosh, Bobby Fish story. I think his name was Bobby Fish. Some of those serial killer stories are just. I mean, you talk about true to life horror, and that's those things really will put you in a scare because they're real. You know.
oh, yeah. I always like the realistic stories, but, yeah, like I mean, I just like horror or just good stories in general. Actually talking to somebody, uh, pretty much for the interview earlier today is, like, talking about, like, there's a lot of people who like to tell you about experiences, and I'm just like, I'm just a fan of stories, to be honest. Like, if there's, like, any kind of sub stories like, "Oh, wait, this involved talks about this or this talks about that," like, I gotta look up on that. I've always been kinda like that guy, but, that
Yeah.
kind of hurt, I guess, but I like it.
Right.
It's
Right.
good. Well, I guess from my age, the, first horror movie that got me is definitely gonna, I guess, lightly shock you because it's probably not the movie no one expects. And I'm gonna start nice and slow to see if you catch it, but it is The American Werewolf in
London. Yeah.
Nope, Paris.
Nope. Paris. Oh, no, that was after London.
Yep, that was after London, the cheesier one, the one that's like it went for like being scary, but also tried to go for like American Pie vibes almost, like almost.
Right.
But like, yeah, like that was I still remember that day. Like, first, my mom bought it, and she was like, or she didn't buy it, she rented it, and she wanted to see it. And I'm sitting there on the couch where there's like me and my younger brother sitting on the couch, and we're like, "Man, I'm gonna watch this horror movie with you." She's like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm sure." Like, I think it's time for me to grow up. And I want to say I was like 7 or 8, maybe even 9 at this time, thinking like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna watch this movie. I'm, I'm gonna grow up after this. I got this." And even though I definitely see it now and I laugh because it's like definitely CGI, but the first transformation scene with the woman, my mind went like, and
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, it's like my heart's pumping. It's like, oh my god. And my younger brother, who also wanted to be like, I'm gonna watch it with you. He literally went to the corner and just like started like just sit down and just watch and look in the corner. It's like I gotta go watch the cartoon. I just went upstairs. My mom's kind of looked at both of us. I like lightly traumatized her words, like, it's all right, y'all. I'm gonna watch this in my room. It's like I'm gonna watch this in my
There you go.
but
Yeah, anytime you could get entranced in a movie like that, that has the scenery of a person changing shapes is,
Mhm. Yeah,
is definitely enthralling, and
it changed my outlook. Like it weirdly shook me to the bone, but also after a while, like I want to say after seeing that, and then after like maybe one I wanna say after, like, a few months of, like, seeing it, I pretty much got it in my head that, "Okay, look, so I can't let this stop me, so every time it comes on, Imma watch it."
no
And
doubt.
when yeah, pretty much when my mom when we moved to, like, a different spot, we not only got, like, cable, we got the fancy cable with Stars, and lo and behold, Stars happen to, like, have that almost every week to where it's like to where it'll be like at nighttime, be like every week nighttime, American Werewolf in Paris. Like I gotta watch it, and so I was
Uh,
so determined that after I want to say a month of watching it continuously, I now laugh at it, and that also kind of started me on my journey of just like, you know what, I kind of like that. Let me see what other horror movies kind of dove into, and went
That's
from
funny.
went from like that to watching stuff on AMC to like even going through my mom's VHS tapes. I know some people that might see this episode, they won't be like, "What's a VHS tape?" It's like that little
There you
cassette
go.
tape
Just
that
that
you
we
that
got to pull one. Listen, we got to pull one of those out for one of these episodes where people can see they because I mentioned earlier in my discussion too what they actually look like. But we're mentioning stuff that people are going. These guys are out there.
Mhm,
What's a
mhm.
VHS
Like,
tape? And
how
then for long,
like
they're gonna be saying
how
DVD. What is that?
mhm, mhm. Now it's like the word of like, they wanna stream it or yeah, if it's not in the theater, they gotta stream it, and
Got to stream it.
the rare hardcore people, which I even found myself that I've not been doing my due diligence. The rare old school people just still be like, no, they go to like Walmart or any other stores and be like, let me just buy the hard copy, the Blu-ray,
Right, the Blu-ray, right?
edition, the edition one. Like I'm still like I haven't been doing that as much, but like I still like love that feeling of just like going to like shopping and just being like, oh, is this movie like at $5? Oh, I'm gonna snag this. I'm like, it's
Yeah, and real quick before you jump to the next subject, there is a new werewolf movie coming out. I was trying to Google it as we were talking. I just saw this ad for it the other day, and I don't know if it's gonna be straight to TV or something, but I don't see it now.
trying to
Maybe it's
think,
on Netflix.
I'm
Oh,
trying,
it is on Netflix, I
I'm trying
think.
to see it.
Maybe
Like
no.
I'm trying to see it because what the horror movie, what the werewolf movie is, because I know there was two. There was one that came out
I'm
last,
not
yeah, the one that came out last year, like
right, right here,
the month,
December, right?
and it was called
Yeah, it's called
Werewolves.
Werewolves. Yeah.
I I took yeah,
Maybe
I
that's
went
the one
to
I'm thinking of. I don't see another one.
yeah, I went to took M and my mom to see it, and we liked it. Like, granted, we knew it was a little bit cheesy, but I like the practical effects. Like that's what I miss about werewolf movies. Is like werewolf movies, they usually bring about the practical effects, and it's rare that a werewolf movie has that now, a mixture. But
Right.
they had like
Yeah.
the makeup and everything. I dug a little bit of the story, but no, it was a fun time. Like it was one of those popcorn movies where it's like if you turn your brain to a little bit to like one or two instead of like on high 10, like this is gonna be
That's
philosophical. If you turn like the one and two, get some popcorn and take the movie for what it is. It was a fun movie. It was a fun movie. I liked it. I
and
liked
I
it.
think it's funny you brought that up, and I know we got more things to cover in this video, but when you think about horror movies, I think you almost have to do that with all of them to make them interesting because like we talked about earlier, you know none of them are real. So that's the number one. You go like, how real is this gonna be? How cheesy is it gonna be? How funny is it gonna be? There's so many different how gory is it gonna be? And you have to really put that perspective when you go to watch it. So it's like I'm gonna text you, I was like, we need to discuss what constitutes a horror movie because let's give you an example. Let's give you a real big example. Like one of my fears is heights. Definitely afraid of heights. I can't even if we go walking on the mountains, I can't stand near the ledge because I'm afraid I'm gonna fall. I'm not afraid of heights. I'm afraid of falling. But anyway, there's a movie called Fall.
Mhm.
These two, you've seen or heard about? It. Yeah, these two
I
girls go
haven't
up to the
seen it,
top
but
of
I
a
heard
needle.
about it, and I need to watch
It,
it. That's
oh my gosh, you talk about suspenseful. Now it's not necessarily a horror movie because there's no killing in it. There's no, but the suspense and the overall
fair. Yeah, it's
thrilling rush of that movie, oh my gosh, I
no,
almost
no,
wanna put it in our category.
and no, no. I definitely, yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely agree with you on that term, only because, like, yeah, there are some horror movies who was like, okay, it's considered as a horror movie. I can go with that, but like, there are some like suspense movies that are just like, just the thought of it is like, yo, the thought of that's actually kind of scary to be honest. Like that should actually be
Right,
classified as that. So yeah, I think for future reference, when we're talking about, I guess, horror, we're talking about movies. We'll talk about movies or scenarios that are dubbed scary or just like
right,
horrifying in a way. Like yeah,
horrifying, yes,
and
that's a good word to put it.
I think that's a good thing to like kind of have that ground zero on. Like for example, some of the guys behind me classified as horror movies. Werewolves can be classified as horror movies, but also
Mhm,
Fall, that movie can definitely be classified as a horror movie because
right,
let's face it, even if you know you may not be afraid of heights, to be even put in that situation, you're
right,
gonna get scary. Like you're gonna get scared. It's gonna.
Yeah, the word
the
scare
thought,
and fear to me are both
fear.
in
You're gonna have fear.
synonymous with this fear, right?
You're gonna have
So
fear. So yeah, we can almost say we're fear junkies, but I don't know. That might be pushing it.
fear.
That
That
might
might
push
put
that might push it a little bit. Yeah, because there's some things I have a healthy fear of, like certain snakes, and certain spiders. I have a healthy fear of,
Gotcha. That's funny.
it's kind of like where we
I
were.
love it's funny, I love snakes.
Yeah.
So
Oh, you love snakes. Oh, I give you
I
props.
love
I
snakes.
give you props. I'm 50-50. I'm more like, as long as you stay over there and I know you're not the venomous slash aggressive type, we'll be okay. If we are,
You'll be okay, right?
I'm gonna try to come up with some kind of saw primitive tactic where it's like I gotta scoot you over there, or I gotta knock you out the list. I'm sorry, like it's one of those.
Right. And funny you just mentioned Saw, because again, this could go along with our podcast here for the next episodes. We got to figure out how we're gonna do series, like, cause Saw, there's 6 or 7 of them. Scream, there's 7 of
Well,
them.
pause, pause.
Halloween, there's 10 of
There's
them.
yeah, but so there's 6 of them right now. I still remember this thing like way back in like my town's flagpole, and they made a joke about like how if it's Halloween season, there's a Saw movie coming out, and I had to I had to, like, put my head down because on one half was like, it's not like that, and then I look at how many Saws we have. I was like, okay, creators of Saw, they got a point. Like every time, like every few years when it's like Halloween, it's like, and now coming to theaters in October, the next Saw
Yep,
movie. Like, come on now.
that next Saw movie, yep, every time.
But no, I dig that. I definitely like that. So we hit a lot on that. I mean, yeah, we're hitting a lot on this pretty much first one. This is going to be nice, and I'm definitely going to try to edit this to make sure that it's enjoyable. Maybe like set some background music or something, or
Yep,
some
that
that plays
works.
the
Background
vibe
music,
a little bit. But
introduction music.
yes, introduction music and background music to kind of end it, and of course, an end music. I'll be editing that a while, and of course, for the first video, whoever's hearing this, you'll be cool with that. You'll be all right. This is
As
trying.
long as they're getting as
This
long
is
as they're
bringing.
entertained and they're learning something about
Yes.
horror movies, that's the main thing. So
Yep, entertaining and bloopers. There you go. All right. So since we already knocked out a good bit of the topics, I guess one topic that we did knock on that we want to talk about on is pretty much what is one of our top favorite horror movies. Now, I will say that for this list, and this for anyone who listens to this, keep in mind that this pretty much it's going to be one of his on his list. It's going to be one of mine on my list. And yes, due to our experience and our age, we probably have like a whole long list to go through and a whole long list of categories and why. So, since I did start the intro first, I'm going to have you start first. What is one of your top favorite horror or scary like movies and why?
my favorite, I guess if I had to really pick a favorite is Halloween, the original Halloween. And not just because it had some slasher scenes in it, but it's the way Michael Myers appeared quite a few times. I told you sometimes it's just the fear and the thought. And so like you would just see him standing there on the corner as you're walking down the street. That was scary, you're like, "Wow, this guy, he's around, he's around." And I like seeing it sometimes from the killer's perspective too, and you get to see that quite in the Halloween series, but yeah, I like the original Halloween. Halloween 2 really trumped it up too. If I had to pick a, very, very close 1A, Halloween 2 would be right there too. But those would be my 1A, 1B, just because I'm a big Michael Myers fan and I like the way they did that movie, so
Means on the top. Yeah, I want to say we're
Halloween,
almost done
definitely.
because yeah, after my spiel, we can pretty much end it right there. We can talk about like tune in for what we might talk about next episode, and yeah, we can get it right there. But yeah,
Yeah, there
Halloween.
is so listen, the thing is, there is, as I mentioned when I told you I would love to start this podcast, there is so much to discuss, and I would want, like I said, I would want those few people that click on and go, "Hey, let me see what this video is all about." I love horror movies that they learn something, and maybe again, we'll just throw out the burning as a first factor. Hey, I've never heard of that. Let me go watch that and
Mhm.
see what he's talking about, and get that feeling of wow, I see what he's talking about now. It's got a little bit of a scare, but if you think about when it was made, 1981, that really makes you think, gosh, they could actually make good horror movies back then, even too, without all the, without all the CGI, without all the graphics, and without all the blood and gore and things of that nature, it could still be scary. And it's just the thought process of the movie and the way it was made. Um, but yeah, there's so many topics to discuss. I mean, it's
Oh,
unreal. I was thinking about them yesterday when we were trying to go through all this. I was like, there's so much that there just could be very, very many, a lot of episodes. That's why I was wanting, once we eventually get kicked off and going, this could almost be an every other day, every third day thing if you
oh yeah,
could.
oh yeah.
'Cause
Once
there
we
is so much to discuss to get out there to people that
yeah, once we
that's what
get
I would want to do.
oh yeah, definitely once we get like our schedule going and everything's matching and we got everything set up, then yeah, we'll definitely like, send it out to where it's like, hey, we're gonna be doing this 2 days a week, or now we're gonna be doing this 3 days a week, or it's gonna be like,
Right.
hey, it's gonna be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and sometimes a Saturday, depending on what goes on, that kind of thing. But no,
Right.
like I said, taking baby steps, baby steps. But no,
Makes
I like
sense.
that.
So,
Halloween's pretty good. Yeah, and that is kind of like scary because it's because when I look at it, even though with the story and stuff and how they've took it, him being like pretty much this force of evil, like the spirit, I want to say the essence of evil and whatnot.
right.
What makes it scary is like technically is just like he is a crazy determined man. Like it's and
Right.
that's like scary on like so many levels. Like there's even been martial arts quotes about like I don't fear the man who's gonna say that, hey, I'm gonna do this. I fear the man that's literally gonna be like, it doesn't matter if you do this and that. I want to bite your nose off. And like that's
Right.
like a man that literally states and says, like, I'm so determined to do this, even if I'm broken, I'm gonna come around and bite your nose off. Like that's the essence of like scariness already. So the fact that Halloween is basically seeing a crazed, determined guy doing that kind of stuff. That's
And
set the tone.
if
So it's
if you really think about the Halloween series, so I like how Rob Zombie expanded on it and
yes.
actually told a little bit of Michael's story, a little bit more of Michael's story, and turned Michael from the boy to the man, and how that boy, with his weird thoughts, he was just a normal boy at first, but he was getting treated poorly in the home, and just
Mhm,
kind of expanded that story to kind of show you, how crazy he went, and then he was just a big, big dude. It wasn't like he was deflecting bullets or anything. He was just a big, big dude, so that part of it, along with what you're saying, the whole determination of him trying to get back at his family or finish his family off, one by one, no matter who was involved in it, is a
mhm,
scary thought. The fact he's going to come back every year to do it too. But yeah, I liked how Rob Zombie expanded on it. Again, that's up there. He does put a little bit more gore into it, but um, and I kind of mentioned that to you the other day too. I'm not that big on gore. I really am. I mean, to me, if you got to throw the gore in there to make it good, that makes me, I'm not so sure I like it. Like I started watching Terrifier Part Two, and the
mhm.
very first scene has the clown beating this guy's head in with a mallet, and I'm like, the dude died off the first hit. Why are you continuing? It makes no sense.
No, no,
I
I
mean, it's just
agree.
gore to be there. It's gore to be on top of gore. And I'm like, why? Does it that made no sense about it. I was actually getting mad at it. I was like, when is this gonna stop? I mean, he hit him across the head, knocked him down. Okay, cool, cool. Goes back and hits him again. That's what a meat mallet about the size of me and your head. And then he just continues to wail on this guy, wail on this guy. I mean, what I don't know. I didn't time it, but it was probably about a good 45 seconds to a minute. And he was beating this guy's head. I'm like, why? Where's the story behind this? I got so mad I turned it off. It might have been a great rest of the movie, but I was mad.
No, I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying, like, yeah, I'm trying to get into, or I'm trying to like do my due diligence and like diving into the Terrifier myself. Like, yeah, pretty much I saw the first one. I was like, wow, that's
Yeah.
excessive.
First one was good.
And I think,
It
yeah,
was excessive,
and
but it was
yeah,
good.
and I think that's pretty much, I guess, from what I've heard. Besides, I guess them, of course, being inspired by him also being an evil force that just does maniacal stuff. I think pretty much his card or like his trait that sets him apart from, I guess, all the greats right here is pretty much the senseless. violence, like the
Yeah. Senseless.
yeah, the senseless violence where it's like most as weird as it sounds, most of the guys behind me have some sort of code with their violence. Like
Right.
they wanna end your life and they wanna make it painful, but like they have a certain limit. Like they don't go too far
Right.
with Art the Clown, aka the Terrifier, because that's pretty much, I think his official name. His
Right.
trait is that he always wants to go too far. Like
Right.
he wants it to be like, "I'm gonna do this 45 times, and even if there's nothing there, but I still wanna keep doing it," and I think that's
It's
his
the shocker value of it, and not to say that that doesn't
Yeah,
happen in real life, because 'cause I'm sure it does, but again,
yeah.
you're trying to portray it on the screen, and you're trying to portray it as horror. That doesn't scare me. It makes me like, "Why?" I'm just kinda like I say, I see a scene like that, and I just go, "Why?" Because again, I've seen a lot of blood and guts, and I've seen a lot of oh, wait, speaking about it, I gotta get to the last thing up. I had to tell you, there's gotta be those talks too about where's the limit. And I kinda like you just said about the code, like Michael Myers and Jason would never kill a kid. You'd see them, but they would never kill it. They would actually walk up on a kid in bed. They look at them funny. They would never kill them. They'd walk away. Now, I
Mhm.
say kid, I get to be a 16-year-old teenager, high school. You're up for grabs. If you can have sex in
Yeah.
the movies, you're up for grabs. And but yeah, the whole code of not killing a kid, I think is important. Now, granted, it's implied, in it, so, you
Oh,
gotta think about that. But again, I don't wanna see it, I don't think per se. And then there's certain gross topics. What's that movie called? The Human Centipede? Have you ever seen that? Listen, gross
yeah,
topics are
yeah.
out, man. That's like you can't put
I
that in. You can't put that as a horror
I
movie.
still
It's not scary, that's stupid.
I still haven't watched it because, like, the concept of it,
Listen, don't. I'm gonna
it
tell you now,
doesn't
don't.
it
I'm
doesn't
just gonna
it doesn't attract me as much. It really doesn't.
Good.
I don't know.
Good, because I watched it, and I wished I wouldn't have. It's one of those scenes you can't ever get out of
Yeah.
head, so
Like some kinda like, I guess, body horror, it does attract me, but, like, ever since I heard it, it made me go like, "Hmm," but it made me go like, "Hmm, let me watch it." Like, I've always been
yeah,
like, "Hmm, okay, that's neat." But, yeah, I don't wanna go too far onto it. For me, though, one of my top favorites, and it kinda links into, I guess, the sequel that'll be coming out, this summer, which I'm looking forward to, is 28 Days Later, and
right.
the yeah, the main reason why I like 28 Days Later is besides the fact of it's being the originator for like a lot of things, it's now known for being the originator for like, the fast moving zombies. But
Mhm.
what gets me the most for it, and I'm about to nerd out a little bit, is basically like one of my fears is one of my slight fears is pretty much a disease, and not because I get sick, but because I can pass it to somebody else and they can get sick too.
Right.
And the scary thought that not only with 28 days later, it turns you into a rage-filled primitive human that wants to like either maul or get anyone else to turn into a rage-filled like human yourself. But the fact that it only takes one drop, like that's all it
Right.
takes. Like,
The one drop.
yeah, and it could be like an accident. You can like even in the movie it depicted this. You can like look up at the sky and all of a sudden it drops in your eye. Like the fact that it takes one drop and almost 30 seconds for you to go from like hi to like now road rage quan times 25 is just crazy to me. And
I like the way that movie was shot too,
yeah,
the video scenes of that movie, kinda like you said, the fast movie zombies, but it's almost like everything was fast. All
mhm,
the screenshots were fast, everything
mhm.
was but it was also dark, and it was,
Mhm. I like how they
yeah,
made it realistic, but also like gritty, like realistically gritty. And I think,
definitely my favorite, zombie movie for sure.
yeah. And the funny thing that I like to like poke and prod at people. I guess another topic we can hit on is if we can see like foreseeing trends or of horror movies that might happen because
Right.
people forget. And when I saw this movie, I actually went to see both of these movies in theaters with the same group of people that when 28 Days Later came out, you know what else came out that year too?
What's that?
The remake of Dawn of the Dead,
That's right, that's right.
which also happened to be the second movie right after it that started zombies that moved really, really fast. And
Right,
I remember that because I literally went with like the same group of people, and it felt like earlier that year, it was like 28 days later, it was like, "Oh, that's crazy, that's wild." And it was like one of the first rare movies that gave me like a weird nightmare about 28 Days Later. But literally, I remember I wanna say a few months later, like in the summer, Dawn of the Dead, and it just kinda like made me click right here. It's like, "Oh, that was the year of fast moving zombies," because 28 Days Later and Dawn of the Dead came out on the same year. Granted, it like 28 Days Later almost overshadowed Dawn of the Dead unless like you were horrophiles like me and you, like yeah, like me and
right.
you. Like people would like overlook, like, "What? Dawn of the Dead was like a fast zombie movie?" Was like, "Yeah, it was there. It was crazy. It was great." But like it got overshadowed, which that'd be another topic we got hit on is I guess like certain movies that got overshadowed or copied by another movie. Because not to go into
Right.
another movie that pretty much had that happen, but made it happen in a bad way was The Cave. Now, have you seen The Cave?
Doesn't sound familiar, no.
That sound familiar? Well, pretty much The Cave came out, and it was a horror movie about these people going down, doing cave explorations, and they stumble across some creatures. It was an alright movie, but what makes me mad about it was it pretty much overshadowed because of its, I guess, marketing budget. It overshadowed The Descent, and The Descent had a similar story, but was way better. Like,
Sure.
I'm talking like, yeah, The Descent's one of like my other favorite movies up there, but the fact of like The Cave had more money to throw in marketing, and The Descent was right here, but because The Cave had way more money marketing, it kinda, like, overshadowed The Cave overshadowed The Descent. It even, like, threw people off from, like, The Descent because it's like, The Descent, isn't it like The Cave movie like this?" Like,
Is that
"No, you guys, it's
maybe that's
better,
why I didn't watch
it's
The
better.
Cave because I loved The Descent. Instead of watching the reason I watched The Cave, it sounds too much like it.
Please don't, please don't." Like I said, so you can tell by the budget, with some of the actors they put in there, it's like, "Okay,
Yeah,
y'all basically tried to overshadow people with the budget." The Descent, way better acting, way better story, like, way scarier scenes for sure, like,
right.
it was like chef's kiss, like, I still remember when I saw that at my mom's house, when we rented the movie, you would have thought I was back in high school. We had pretty much a whiteboard. I made a letter of how much I love The Descent on that whiteboard.
Gotcha. Well, one thing, another again, another topic to think about too, and I was thinking about this as you was mentioning the descent was, one thing I love about horror movies is the good guy doesn't always win. It doesn't always end up happy dory.
Mhm,
One of my
mhm,
favorite movies is called The Mist, and it was so depressing at the end. I was like,
yeah,
why am I watching this?
mhm,
It was one of those movies that's like, why did I just watch this? This was not fun. This didn't end well.
mhm,
But yeah, if you
mhm,
ever get a chance, watch that one. That was a really good movie. And then there's another one too, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head. But I love movies that give you that you sit there and you think, why? This is not ending like I thought it should end. Because a good guy doesn't always win in horror movies. So you gotta
mhm,
like that part too a
mhm.
little bit.
Well, I mean, we could definitely. I think that'd be definitely like something we could hit up on the next session for real. Because like that's I find that you like that because I too am. I'm big like a horror fan, but like pretty much I too have like that great divide to where I want I guess the lead to like survive, be victorious, but I'm also a fan of like the old school nobody gets out alive kind of like horror movie situation. And I've always like been like that neutral divide. And like I said, I think along I guess with maybe one or two other topics, we can definitely go over that like next
Sounds good. That says so
next
much.
episode.
It's
Yeah. So,
unreal
no, no,
how
so
many
much. No, no.
topics I was talking about.
Yeah,
So
no, no. I'm about to make a bad joke. Like, pretty much, if this goes on to where we're like we get our schedules going and everything, this could definitely be something I can go to where it's like, all right, guys, we're on like episode 300 and we still have not
Yeah,
ran out of anything to talk about horror movie wise. Like we can still keep going.
exactly, and if nothing else, we'll pick up on movies that you and I haven't seen, or I haven't seen, you haven't seen, and we don't get one viewer, I'm gonna go, "Hey, I'm gonna go watch that today," because
Mhm.
that's what
Yep.
was happening in the
Yep.
dojo too. You bring up a movie, I go, "You know, I haven't seen that one, go write it down, I can check it out later," so
Mhm. Yeah, we
yeah,
can even do like our own. Since I know it's popular, we can also do like our own like movie reviews. Like when certain movies come out, we can kind of like coordinate to be like either coordinate where it's like okay, I'll wait till you say you've seen this movie, then we can talk about like next episode we'll review
that'll be
this
perfect,
movie.
right, exactly.
But yeah,
Sounds good, man.
I'm digging this, man. This was pretty good. And also as usual, it's good talking with you. Good.
Good talking to you too.